Welcome back, faithful. This is the first training camp rewind of the 2022 season. Today, we're recapping all the happenings from the 49ers' first block of training camp practices. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Lindsey Pallares, your new team reporter. I'm so happy to be here, and I can't wait to tell you all the stories of this team and this organization this season. If you couldn't make it out to practice this week, don't worry, we've got you covered. And as always, we'll be joined by a member of the 49ers. Our player guest for this edition of Training Camp Rewind is linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair. But before we get to anything else, it's officially official. Wide receiver Deebo Samuel has signed a 3-year extension with the 49ers that'll take him through the 2025 season. Monday, he rejoined team activities, and for head coach Kyle Shanahan, he'll be eased into padded practices. Another big storyline of the week unfolded even before players got a chance to take the field for their first practice at the SAP Performance Facility. On report day, general manager John Lynch and head coach Kyle Shanahan addressed the media and shed light on San Francisco's quarterback situation. Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, Nate Sudfeld, and Brock Purdy are all currently on the roster at the quarterback position. However, unlike last year, there will be no ongoing battle. Per Lynch and Shanahan, Lance is QB1 in 2022.
Well, this is Trey's team. And that's nothing against Jimmy. We made that decision a year ago, and we're going with that. And we're not going to mess around with that anymore. And I don't think we really have messed around with that much. But once we made that decision, we did. And Jimmy understands that fully. He's a big guy, and it's nothing against him either. That's a business decision, and that's what makes it not awkward.
Lance spoke earlier in the week and shared his thoughts on stepping into a new role for the upcoming season.
For me, it wasn't really like a moment or anything like that. I've been excited. I've been prepared. I thought, preparing to play since the day I got here, the day I got drafted. So I'm obviously excited for this year.
Meanwhile, Garoppolo, who is coming off an off-season shoulder surgery, is completing a throwing program. And while we're talking injuries, here's a few more updates we've got for you. Defensive lineman Kalia Davis, who is a 6th-round pick from this year's draft, starts off camp on the non-football injury list, while cornerback Jason Verrett and tight end Charlie Warner landed on the physically unable to perform list. Over the course of this first portion of training camp, the injury bug has hit the defensive line pretty hard. Eric Armstead, Hassan Ridgeway, and Mo Hurst will all be taking time away from the field. Mo Hurst has been placed on the injured reserve list as of Monday morning. Armstead is dealing with a knee sprain, but faithful, check this out. Number 91 took to social media to assure everyone that he's going to be back soon. That's Armstead's Twitter post from late last week. Up next, some familiar faces return to the team. Mr. Madden 99 Club himself, Trent Williams, is back after taking a few days off to welcome in a newborn baby. Also, offensive lineman Mike McGlinchey and defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw, who both closed out the 2021 season on IR, were both cleared to practice and began easing into team drills on Saturday. Finally, there's 3 new additions to the 49ers roster. San Francisco signed defensive lineman Robert Nkemdiche, Tomasi Laulile, and Akeem Spence. Now let's get to the field work. Monday, the team took part in their first padded practice of camp, but before the pads came on, there were a few things that stood out in that first block of practices. For starters, Lance showed his growth from year 1 to year 2, confidently hitting those tight window shots and connecting with his go-to targets, especially a hungry third-year wide receiver Brandon Ayuk. And on the other side of the ball, the defense opened up camp in a big way, producing 10 takeaways. One of those takeaways and a few pass breakups belong to one of the newer members of the cornerback unit, Charvarius Ward, who came to camp ready to ball. All of those 3 players I mentioned, Lance, Ayuk, and Ward, are all part of this week's Play of the Week. This was Saturday during team drills. Lance showing off his arm on this one. He lets it fly for 50 yards. Ayuk goes airborne and over the top of Ward to make the grab and gets a knee down. Beautiful catch. And a guy who had a front row seat to all the training camp action, Azeez Al-Shaair, joining us today. Azeez, got a first day of padded practice in the books. Initial thoughts, you feeling pretty tired right now?
Oh, for sure. Whenever you get those pads on for the first time, it's about 10, 15 extra pounds that you're carrying around with. But it was a good day on both sides, I think, just competing, getting after it. So pretty solid overall.
I got a chance to watch you guys take the field today. Sort of seemed like everybody had a little extra hype to them today. Can you just talk about the energy of everyone headed into this first practice with pads?
Yeah, I think just overall, obviously, guys are excited. You've been lifting all these weights and running and stuff the entire offseason. And then those first 4 days when you're kind of like getting in the hole with a running back and y'all both talking crap, like, oh, I would have tackled you, or oh, I would have shook you. So I think it's the first real day to like put it on tape and see like what really would have happened. So everybody's just usually excited for it.
Before we get too far down the line about training camp practices, I did want to catch everybody up with you. How was this offseason for you, and was there an area of focus that you really applied yourself towards in offseason programming and on your own?
Yeah, for me, it was like a pretty big offseason. I had to get surgery on my elbow from the season, and I had surgery on my knee. And so the recovery for that was about 3-4 months. So I spent most of the offseason just recovering from that. And then after I recovered from those injuries, really just making sure I was working on my tackling fundamentals, trying to make sure I wrap up a little bit more, eliminate some of the missed tackles I had last year. But overall, it was a pretty solid offseason. Spent some time with my family too, so it was really good.
All good things. You mentioned that you also have the mic inside your helmet. Can you just talk a little bit about kind of dealing with that and working through that with inside of camp and how that's really preparing you for the season?
I think just having that mic, you're just constantly getting all the calls, putting yourself through it, helping relay the messages when we're out there on the field. You know, me, Fred, and Dre, we're out there on the field together. We're all communicating with the entire defense. So when there's more than one person with the mic, it just makes it a lot easier. Obviously in the game, Fred's the only one who has it. There's only one person can have it at a time. But it just gets us used to communicating as a whole. And so I think it just makes it a lot easier to talk throughout practice and then translate it to the game to help him with the calls.
One thing we've seen for this first portion of camp, defense has been very dominant, especially with the addition of Charvarius Ward to the secondary, and then you, Fred, and Dre all in at that linebacker position. Just what are your expectations for the defense as a whole?
Yeah, I think as a group, obviously, you know, any defense or any team, you look from like Pop Warner all the way to the highest level of the NFL, I'm sure you want to be the best. That's what I would hope. You know, that's what we break it down as a linebacker group on, and that's what our expectation is for our entire unit. You know, obviously it's day 5. Like, you taking it one day at a time. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be things you got to clean up. But if every day you just keep chopping away at those things, you're going to end up liking the end result. So, you know, our focus is definitely just taking it one day at a time, but it's always to be the best, for sure.
Is there a play of the day or play of the week, I guess, that you can talk to us about just that you've seen on the defensive side that's been really impressive for you?
Man, it was a couple. I know Charvarius, he had an interception a couple of days ago that was like a really nice play that he made, and he ran it all the way back for a touchdown. There's just been a lot of scrappy plays from the secondary. I think you look at E-Man, really just our whole secondary. Timor, you know, I think a lot of guys are making a lot of plays on the ball in the secondary, and then even towards the end of practice the other day, Fred making that big interception. So I mean, you just see a lot more plays on the ball from our entire defense. So it just looks really good right now.
If you are, by chance, on the sidelines for one of those plays, just what's it like watching your teammates get a takeaway? Is everybody just going crazy on the sidelines?
Oh yeah, it ignites the entire defense. You know, when you're in games, it ignites the entire stadium, the entire team. So as a defense, we understand how big it is to get a turnover. As a team, we understand that. That's what we preach. That's what we practice. So whenever you get those in practice, it just excites everybody because it keeps everybody rolling, keeps the defense going, and we're just ready to go make another one.
Wanted to talk briefly about the other side of the ball on offense. It seems like the entire team has just been so excited about Trey Lance stepping into his new role. What have you seen from him in terms of improvement from year 1 to year 2?
I think you just see a lot more cleaner throws, like windows. Like, I know one play that stood out. I know you talk about defense, but from an offensive perspective, it was that same the other day. It was like a 7-cut. Brandon Ayuk had ran it, and he just, like, you see Mooney, we call him Mooney, but Charvarius Ward, he was coming to try to intercept it, and I think Trey just, like, beamed it right where nobody else could get it. It was a perfect throw. So I mean, he's had a couple of those throughout the last 4 days, and you just see he's on it. He really is. So obviously, he's playing against a good defense. We're playing against a good offense. You know, that's the iron sharpen iron mentality that we have. But you know that if you keep stacking like that and just keep taking those steps forward, take it all with a grain of salt. I mean, you can see where the potential and why everybody's so excited about him.
And just what you've seen from Trey initially during this training camp, more of a vocal leader or more of a lead by example type of guy?
Yeah, I think Trey, he's a guy that he's gonna do what he has to do first. You know, big thing for him is he doesn't talk a lot. He's not saying a whole lot of stuff, but he's more like a one-on-one guy. You see him around, there's not nobody that he doesn't know, he doesn't talk to. And he has, I feel like, individual relationships and connections. And my biggest thing with guys in general, just lead how you lead. Don't try to be somebody that you're not, be yourself. And I think he does a really good job of doing that. But also, like I said, leading by example more so than anything, and having connections with the guys individually, off the field and on the field.
And briefly, just before we let you go here, I know that I caught up with you on report day and you shared some personal and team goals. Do you mind sharing that again today, just for everybody here on Training Camp Rewind?
So for us as a team, like I said, the goal is obviously to win the Super Bowl and finally finish it this year. Like I said earlier, you gotta take it one day at a time. And for me individually, I think when you focus on the bigger picture of the team goals, usually all your individual things that you want to be the best at your position, you want to, get paid, make all the money, all these things. And usually when the whole team is together, focused on winning, all those things will come with it. So our biggest focus is just, like I said, taking it one day at a time, and everything else will kind of take care of itself.
I hope it does. I'm wishing you guys all the best out there. Thank you so much for joining us for Training Camp Rewind, and we'll be back.
Thanks for having me.
We feel great about our guys. Some of the young guys in the last couple of years who have quickly become some of our better players and leaders. I think our team's in a great spot. When you got the guys there, just talent-wise, that we see at practice every day, and I see the people around them, it pumps me up. It's going to be a work in progress, which everything is, and we got to go out there and get to what our potential is, just like we did last year. And I believe we got the team to do it. And not everyone does have that opportunity, a chance, and I see a chance, and I just want to go to work with them.
Before we wrap this edition of Training Camp Rewind, I'll leave you all with one reminder. Next week, make sure to tune in at the same time. That's 5 o'clock, everybody, for the premiere of Brick by Brick. It's our annual digital series from 49ers Studio that gives you, the faithful, an inside look at the team's off-season activities and a behind-the-scenes look at training camp. That's all for today. I'll catch you all on the next Training Camp Rewind.